everybody, and welcome to another Super Sports Collection show. My name is Bruce Starr. I am having so much fun doing these shows. It doesn't get any better than being able to do a show with incredibly successful people. And that's what I have here. Each and every time I do a show, it's with uh, very successful, accomplished, professional athletes. And today is no different because today I have with me a gentleman who has played in the NFL for years. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Gary Reasons was a linebacker. I don't know. I got to find out about how crazy do you have to be to, to be a linebacker, but he was a linebacker in the National Football League, mainly for my New York Giants. And Gary was selected by the Giants in the fourth round of the 1984 NFL draft. And he played for the Giants for 8 years, golden years, from 84 to 91, appearing in 122 games, including 80 as a starter. That is a hell of a run. And I'd love to talk to Gary about a highlight. It has to do with December 1989, Giants playing the Denver Broncos. I'll leave it at that for now. He played for the Giant teams that won two Super Bowls, Super Bowl 21 and Super Bowl 25, and later worked for more than 20 years as a college football television analyst and sideline reporter for ABC, ESPN, Fox Sports Southwest, and he has been inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame and Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. There's some other things that we'll talk about. I want to hear all about your college days. So, Gary, without waiting another second, thank you, sir, for doing the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I appreciate the warm welcome. Hey, I need to bring you around with me to do that introduction. You did a good job. That was nice. I appreciate all those accolades. And yeah, having fun with these two teams back here. I've got a couple of my team classics there on the wall. Super Bowl 21 and Super Bowl 25. Those two championship teams actually are just golden in my mind, and obviously a lot of Giants fans who are watching this show are going to get a kick out of the stories that I can share and talk about. But it was a great ride for me, Bruce, and for myself, and I know the fans in the Northeast really enjoyed how we brought a team that really had not been very successful over the last decade and a half to really a real prominent stretch there from 1984 when myself and Carl Banks, Jeff Hostetler, William Roberts joined the team. It was kind of a group that kind of grew under Parcells and Bill Belichick, and well, we can talk over and over and over again, but it was a great start to my career. I really enjoyed my time with the Giants. And as you talked about, I've been a part of the game now for over 50 years. I started football as an 8-year-old, and I became a player, obviously, got into the game, went on to play from high school all to collegiate level, and had some great success at Northwestern State, a 3-time All-American, got into the NFL, and then I stepped out of the game after 9 years and got into the broadcast booth. So as you hear me now talking, you sense I can talk for days, and that's pretty much it. So I can talk football all day long ad nauseum and still love it.
I'm super excited about that because a lot of the guys that I do the shows with, Gary, they love talking about, it's one thing to get a 1 or 2 minute soundbite in there, but it's another thing to really be able to go through your mind and share real time memories. And that's really what I want to do for players. And that's why Leonard Marshall did the show a month or so ago. And we were together for at least a half hour, 40 minutes. I had on Doug Drabeck, Cy Young Award winner, last week. And we spent an hour together. And I said, Doug, are you okay? And here he's got spring training coming up, and he's a AAA manager, AAA pitching coach. And I said, Doug, is it okay? Can we spend a little more time? Yeah, because we weren't talking in sound bites. and I was giving him a chance and asking him questions that maybe others didn't get a chance to ask him. So I really would love to start back in, you said, single digits when you were younger. I wanted to be a shortstop for the New York Yankees. What did you think about during those early formative years?
Well, I was a young kid growing up in Crowley, Texas. I was born in Chicago and actually moved out of Texas when I was 8 years old and moved to a little town called Crowley, which is a suburb of Fort Worth, Texas. And it just kind of fit for me to be on the baseball diamond, the football field, the basketball court. Those were all places that I felt really, really comfortable. It's unique, Bruce, and I'll tell you this quick story. I grew up the son of a carny. So you're asking, what is that? So it's a carnival
Wow.
guy. My dad had several games of chance that he would take and set up week after week after week, and he would travel with the carnival. So I was part of the carnival midway as a youngster, and that kind of got kind of fun for a while, where I could ride all the rides for free. But I tell you, that was a grueling, long, tough stretch of business for my family. But it allowed me to kind of focus on sports when I could, and that turned out pretty well. So I kind of had a great start there to my days as an athlete in Crowley, Texas.
So you did play for uh, not a huge, usually known team, a Northwestern State. People want to think that that's in Chicago or up in the Northwest, and no, it's in Louisiana. I can hear from your accent that you still hold on to. But what was amazing when you played there is that you set records for most tackles in a game. 24 tackles in one game. Come on, Gary, are you kidding? 172 in a season and 394 tackles in a career at that school. And as a result, you were chosen first team Division One AA All American team for 3 consecutive years. And you had some pretty good other players that came out of that school. Mark Duper, great receiver for Miami Dolphins, wide receiver for the New York Giants, Odessa Turner, and also Bobby Hebert, a pretty accomplished quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. You had some good people out of that program.
Yeah, we had a great bunch. It's Bobby Aber, by the way. That's how they talk it. They tell you in Cajun land, it's Aber, man. It's Aber. Hey, and also just kind of a little bit of a trivia for you here. Who do you think was my defensive lineman, defensive end, right in front of me at Northwestern State? You didn't mention him? Ed Ogeron. So Ed was our defensive line coach. Ed is obviously the head coach of LSU and took him to the national championship game in 2019, and got that win for the Tigers. And so we did have a good bunch. We had a nice group. For me back out in Crowley, nobody had ever come out of Crowley, Texas, with an athletic scholarship for football. I was the very first player to come out of Crowley, Texas. So the recruiters weren't coming through there. That's pretty much plain and simple. We weren't a big powerhouse or winning consistently. So the recruiters back then, remember, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have email. It was all done by letters, and it was done by telephone, picking up a phone and calling somebody, say, "Hey, coach, I've got somebody you should come look at." Well, that wasn't happening. So I kind of fell through the cracks, went on to a Division One AA school. Most people saw that I thought that I could play at the Division One major college level at some of the bigger universities, but I wound up playing at Northwestern State. Absolutely loved it. Went to Natchitoches, Louisiana, met my wife there, and it all turned out great. And I had a great career, and it propelled me into the National Football League.
So you're 6'4". I mean, were you were you noticed because of your size back then? How did that
Yeah,
the 6'4", two something, kind of pretty big?
Yeah, I had good size, good height. I was actually a basketball player. I like to stay pretty lean. So I was 6'4", 210, 215 my senior year, a little leaner my junior and sophomore years. But in 215, I think I would, 6'4", 215, just starting ready to fill out again. And well, that's kind of how I focused. When I knew I was going to play college football, I had to tell our baseball coach my senior year that I've chosen to play football, and he cried like a baby because he didn't want me. He wanted me out there helping the baseball team because I had been a 3-year letterman on the baseball team my freshman, sophomore, junior years, and I wasn't coming out for my spring baseball season. It just kind of hurt him, but nonetheless, it was I was a big kid. I was one of our fastest kids, and I've always been the big kind of go-to athlete. I was our leading scorer on basketball for 3 years at the varsity level, and I was kind of an all-around sport and athlete, good athlete. It wound up that I went to Northwestern State where I really did shine, it was noticed. And with the 3 times selected as an All-American, and the university, retired my jersey after in my senior year. It's really, really meaningful to me after that season concluded. 1984 was special. It was a really, really big year for me. That was moving on to the NFL. I got married in 1984. Late in the year, my son was born, and we played with the Giants. And man, I tell you, a lot of things happened that year, but it was a great start to life.
So I want to hear about what it was like in the days that you were waiting for the draft. And I know it's not the same big hullabaloo back then that it is now. What was it? What was it like when you were thinking that you could play in the NFL and knowing you could, but you have to wait around and see what the draft was like? Tell me about that before we enter into the first couple of days at this beautiful stadium behind me.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, it was a very unique time back then because the NFL had draft on 2 consecutive days. Remember, there were 12 rounds of drafts back then, and so there was a lot of players selected. I was expected to possibly go in the third or second round by some scouts and some reports, but the first day they went through 3 rounds, and I didn't get selected. So the next day rolled around, which is the following day, and then I was selected by the Giants early in the fourth round. So I had to wait till then, but we had a little party. We had fun. We had the little watch party to watch the first day, and then I got the call follow up there from Parcells to come join his team in New York.
Did anybody call you? I know Leonard told me, LSU boy, Leonard told me that they called him and they said, listen, we think a lot of you. We've been watching you. We've been admiring what you're doing, both for and at LSU, and how well their program is advancing. Well, anything like that happened with you?
I had a scout that had come through here that was one of the Giant scouts, and he had been here regularly, and he knew me pretty well, and so it was definitely that I had conversations with him that they had interest in me. So that's kind of all I knew. I had not heard from Parcells or George Young or anybody back then prior to the draft. It was just kind of one of those things back then that they kind of just took players that they felt they needed, were making them stronger, and it wasn't a whole lot of back and forth communication. It's not as quick to communicate back then when you got dial-up rotary phones as you have today with texts and emails and all those kinds of things that they can do today to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up of what might be happening. But it worked out fine for me. I don't have any qualms about how the whole process went. It was a unique time, and I'll tell you, back in the draft days back then, I actually went to 2 combines. Then we had one combine in Seattle, which had 4 teams, including the Cowboys, the Seahawks, and a couple of other teams. And then everybody else met up in New Orleans that same year, the rest of the team. So I actually participated in 2 combines in 1984 prior to the draft.
And was there any other interest, any other clubs that were showing any interest or that you were wondering about?
Well, I had a linebacker coach who had previously been working with the Cowboys, and he had told me way back in my sophomore year that he felt that the Cowboys I would be a good fit for them because of their scheme and what have you, and he felt like I could start for them way back after my sophomore year, believe it or not. So I knew the Cowboys scouts had come through there consistently and always there. They were going to take a linebacker in the fourth round. It turned out that they took Steve Diassi after me. So I was drafted by the Giants early in the fourth round, and Steve Diassi was drafted by the Cowboys. And the Cowboys had their opportunity to pick me in, an earlier round, but they waited one round too long before this guy got away to the Giants.
Wow, wow. So the linebacker position, uh, it's like in baseball, the catcher. I mean, you got to be a little loony to be a linebacker. There's so much contact, and freight trains going at freight trains. How did you decide to be a linebacker?
Well, I was like I said, I grew up as an athlete, and really, when you play football, the coaches put some of their best athletes at the linebacker position because you can run, you can tackle, you can do things, catch the ball, those kinds of things. I was a tight end in high school also, so good hands, good. I was able to catch the football. I played quarterback and running back also in my high school days, but they didn't really need me there because we had some other skilled guys that could do the job as well, and they benefited me more from being a tight end. And when I went to college, Bruce, they gave me a unique number. It was 34. And because they didn't know if they were going to put me at linebacker or going to play me at tight end. And then early on in summer camp, they determined that, yeah, this guy's pretty good and he's going to be on the field. We need to get him over there on the defensive side of the ball. But the number 34 stuck. And when I left the university, so I got to hang that one up in the rafters. So 34 is no longer there being used by those guys.
Yeah, definitely want you to explain a little bit later on in the show about what is behind you. But the other thing that I'm really super curious about is you leave your college days pretty comfortable. You're there 4 years, everybody knows you, especially in a smaller college. And then you get drafted by the New York Giants. I mean, it doesn't get any wilder or crazier than that. Big time, big city. Forget about the big city stuff. What was it like for you the first few weeks training camp, looking around and seeing some of the veterans that were been there for a while, like you said, not really succeeding very well, and then all of a sudden you have ends up the two of the best coaches ever in one camp. Tell me what it was like with the guys first and then with those coaches.
Well, I'll kind of go back to minicamp, Bruce, because that's kind of where it all started for us. We had a good, I think we had a great draft class come in there, helped a lot in a lot of different areas. Carl Banks was our first round draft pick that year, and he was early on in the draft, number 3 draft pick overall. So he and I were in the linebacker room, and they had traded away Brad Van Pelt and also Brian Kelly. So some change was coming at linebacker, and we were the newcomers. And oddly, when we got to training camp and everything and started playing regular preseason and into the regular season, Banks and myself, Parcells was kind of a stickler for going to reward the veterans. So we did not start immediately in 1984 together, so Carl and I had to wait 6 weeks. We waited till the 6th game against Atlanta in our rookie year in 1984 before he finally put us out there as starters. And then
Wow.
from there, it lasted half a dozen years or more that we all played together. That with myself and Carl and Harry and LT, and that was a time that was really pretty special because the team was growing, it was emerging, and it was coming into who we are, a tough physical football team, and also one that played smart, opportunistic offensive football. We were really, really tough and physical, and that's the attitude that we took as our head coach. And that was who we were across the league. A lot of teams didn't like to play the New York Giants back then because they knew what it was going to be. It was going to be a struggle, and it was going to be a fight.
I also had the wonderful opportunity to interview Richmond Webb, who played for the Dolphins. And I talked to him because Richmond played sort of in the same time that you did. And, I asked him about playing against Lawrence Taylor. He said, I didn't like that. It wasn't fun, but he had a lot of great things to say about the Giants at the time. As a matter of fact, I've got a book here about a big fan of the Giants. Let's see, who wrote a book called "Once a Giant," and of course, you're mentioned in this book several times. It really was a special team. Now, I know that if you speak to anybody at any time, they'll say how great and how hard they worked and how special everything was. But it it really was that way with those Giants for those years.
Yeah, we had a group that just bought in. We bought into the process. We bought in what Bill Parcells was selling. It was unique. Let me tell you a little mini camp story here from my days with the Giants. My first year up at mini camp, I became a New York Giant. We were all there as rookies coming in. So we had our final practice, and I believe it was a Wednesday or a Thursday, and we had come back into the locker room, and our normal thing would go come in and watch the tape, and then we'd leave. So we come into the defensive meeting room, and Belichick is in there. Bill Belichick, our linebacker coach and defensive coordinator back then. And he got up in front of the room. He goes, "Hey vets, you guys are done. Get out of here. I'll see you at camp." And rookies just hang tight. And so all those guys walked out of the room, and the door closed, and Bill sat behind the table there, kicked his feet up on the chairs, and he had the projector all set up. And he goes, "Get the lights." And what he put on the screen was something that he was trying to teach us about and what it meant to be a New York Giant. So he flipped on the camera, and what the projector, and what he had set up there was a Lawrence Taylor highlight film from his early days in the NFL, being that he was a first round draft pick out of North Carolina, and that what he did as an athlete for the Giants, covering kicks, covering punts, strip sack, fumbles, picking those balls up, running in for touchdowns, interceptions, just mauling defensive tackles and sacking quarterbacks. And literally it was Superman on the screen. And so when I saw that, I'm like, wow, why did they draft me? But the moral of the story is Belichick was trying to do one thing. And when he clicked that off, he goes, "Guys," he says, "if you want to play football for the New York Giants, this is what it takes."
Imagine being able to train your mind with the same precision you train your body. The Awaken Mind headset offers personalized audio programs that can help enhance your concentration, reduce stress, and optimize recovery times. It's like having a personal mental coach available anytime you need to dial in your focus or unwind after an intense session. I believe that this tool can be a valuable addition to your training arsenal, giving you the mental sharpness and relaxation needed for those critical moments when games are won or lost. If you're interested in learning more about how this headset can be integrated into your routine for peak performance, contact me at the number below. I'd like to share more about how this technology can support your journey to the top. Wishing you continued success and looking forward to the possibility of contributing to your legacy as a professional athlete.
And that's what he was doing. He was setting the level of expectation for all of us as rookies coming in there. This is the level of effort that he wanted for us. And there were two words that were on our wall in that meeting room. And it is two words. It's called and they were called relentless pursuit. And when you have relentless pursuit and you have the drive to not give up, to always push forward and always push through, and you have that mindset, we adopted that mantra. That's who we became. We played the game with relentless pursuit. And just think about it. If you're out there watching this, and think about how that can apply to you in your life. If you're trying to achieve something, take that mantra, go with it, go with relentless pursuit, and you will put that as the compass in your life, and it'll be very rewarding for you.
That's great. That's great, Gary. Uh, Another thing I'm curious about, and I know that when you leave college, it's hard enough to go from college to pro, but here you are, a rookie, and you're having to, like you just said, buy into a system totally foreign to you, probably not a way that you ever played before. What was that like to not only have to learn that system, but how was your body and your mind able to get accustomed to what they want?
So, Bruce, uniquely, I had played in that style of defense from my time in high school, 3-4 defense. So I had played a 3-4 defense in high school and flourished in it as an inside linebacker. Went on to college. My first 3 years at Northwestern State, we played a 3-4 defense. My senior year, we played a little bit of a stack 4-4, but it was a little bit different. So I knew the inside linebacker role of the 3-4 defense like the back of my hand. So I came in with a little more of a mental acuity on how to perform in that defense. So I didn't have a learning curve. I didn't have a learning gap. I was able to excel. And by knowledge and using that knowledge, you can excel and you can anticipate and you can move faster if you're comfortable and you know your system and you know what's going on. So instead of me being slowed down by not knowing the system, I actually knew it. And the guy who really started to take off and understood that Gary could be a force on our defense. It wasn't anybody on our defensive staff. It was Ron Earhart, our offensive coordinator, who said that reasons he knows this defense and he knows what he's reading and he's in the middle of every play that we have. And I wrecked his passing game for the most part because I was a pretty good pass defender, and that was fun to see in training camp.
Wow, that's fun. That's why you were so successful. Wow. So were you able to read? Now, this is stuff that people, couch potatoes just wonder the heck out of this. Were you able to read offenses and adjust like in play, the next play? How did that work for you?
Instantaneously for me. It all did because for me, I was our defensive signal caller. I made our adjustments on the field, and so they relied on me to make our calls, our front defensive front calls, and it was all pretty matter of fact for me to do that because I had studied and prepared, and I was able to put in motion what I knew to be the case. And here's some things that you learn as a defensive player. The first thing you have to learn and understand is the offense. How are they trying to approach you? And it's really with the first group of the personnel on the field. Is it one running back or two running backs, a tight end and two running backs and two wide receivers? It's the personnel groups. Once you learn the personnel groups and then you understand what they can do out of those personnel groups, plays, play action pass, and different types of schemes, then it's a process of elimination. And then once you whittle away the things that they cannot do, then you can focus in on if they do this, or if this guard does this, I know I'm going to go here. And by using that process of elimination, I was able to move faster in anticipation of different plays. And that's how I played the game. More of a cerebral player than I would say a gifted player, because I wasn't the most gifted athlete at the NFL level. I had to work hard and get going, but I made up for it with what I have upstairs here.
Wow. So it's almost, again, in a baseball analogy, someone's pitching a fastball at you 95 miles an hour. You're not thinking, you're just acting. And it sounds like that's exactly what it was for you.
Yeah, it was all it kind of came together. I had a great relationship with Belichick and how he taught and how he did things. And when I came off the field, I would confirm what he saw from the sideline. And so we had a mesh there. Wasn't me, it was other players as well, also confirming things. So we had a group of guys, 22 to 25 guys, Bruce, that played together for about 6 to 7 years with the
Wow.
Giants. And that is amazing. You don't get that today, but it was something that really is an amazing feat to have that consistency of approach and being together with that for as long as we did, and it yielded a couple of championships.
When I was a kid, I really got lucky about something. My dad worked for the biggest brewery in the New York metropolitan area at the time.
Free beer, huh?
Well, I was too young for the free beer, but my dad was meeting people who knew New York Giants, and he connected us to Dick Lynch,
Yeah.
and he connected us to Spider Lockhart. And my goodness, Gary, I used to go to Saturday morning workouts at Yankee Stadium, and I would be in the clubhouse walking
Wow.
down that that walkway and to step onto that field, the gravel, and to look up. Oh my God, it was incredible. I bring that up because back then in the 60s, you had Roosevelt Brown, you had Andy Robustelli, you had Frank Gifford, Jim Katcavage. You had all these guys that played together for years. And I said to myself these days, why don't we have that anymore? That's definitely missing from professional sports right now. I don't know why clubs are not saying to themselves, like they think that the club is more important than the players. How do you root like hell for a player for 2 or 3 years and all of a sudden you're rooting like hell against them someplace else? And I know you went on to did you go on to the Browns for a year?
I played 1 year for Cincinnati. Yeah.
Cincinnati. Okay. So it, it, it's, it, it's great that you played with a bunch of guys. You knew each other. You had each other's backs, and I don't know how they're doing it now. They bring people in at the last minute, and you're supposed to have chemistry. Um, I think it's be more of an upset to bring in new guys all the time. What do you think?
Well, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you're not trying to improve the talent level across your team every single day, every single week of the season, shame on you. And if you can, you do so. But that doesn't mean they're always going to mesh in the locker room. That doesn't
Right.
mean they're going to mesh as players off the field. So you have to look at some of those things as a dynamic to being part of a true team. Now, we had true teams, and that was the culture that Parcells was developing back then, and he led that culture. He started it. He was there every single morning when we came into the locker room, sitting on stools in the locker room, talking to a player here, talking to players there, and he made himself available. And what he did, Bruce, was he knew enough about you as a person. He knew what made you tick, what was important to you. And he would talk to you kind of in that way. And he wanted to get the most out of you. That's his job. He's the head coach. He's going to put players in position out there to get wins, get W's, and get going. I'm not sure that all of that is in today's game. A lot of the guys are a lot more X's and O's oriented that I see, but I do still hear the stories that players love these coaches. Players are they love this guy and they want to play for him. That is still real, but I don't think it goes as deep as we had it for as long as we had it in the '80s with the Giants. So it was a treasured time. It was an era that really we were successful because of that type of system. But I don't think it is here right now in the game. I may be wrong. The Chiefs, they seem to be a good group and going against the grain here that have got such a great nucleus of players that have played together for a number of years, and they're showing some great success. And hopefully they have continued success. We felt that way with our team. We had a couple of things get in the way. In 1986, we won the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 21 was the season, and 1987 was a player strike. So we had a real topsy-turvy start to our season. The team with scabs out there had lost the first 4 games, and we came back 0-4. And we didn't, really wasn't a whole lot we could do. We were down, and anyway, we didn't make the playoffs in 1985. Excuse me, 1987, and it just kind of hurt. And then '88 was a build year, another couple more years, but we got back to where we wanted to be in '90. But it just kind of wrecked us a little bit there that strike year, and it is what it is.
And Leonard said the same thing, and I'm thinking to myself, but didn't everyone suffer through that strike? And I wondered to myself how it affected the Giants more. I guess because they were such a cohesive unit that, and then you had to deal with scabs. I'm thinking it out myself that it was a little bit more when you're a family to deal with a breakup.
Yeah, a little bit of that. We had a couple of guys cross the line and go play, and that's okay. That they dealt with that the way they could. I was the player rep for the Giants back then, so I'm basically looking to get the betterment of the longer term situation for all of our players back then. I had a good relationship with Mr. Mara, Wellington Mara, and he certainly was a a guy I think that just kind of did things the right way in the labor negotiation thing. He wasn't, any ostracizing me or anybody, one of our teammates for walking the ticket line. He knew what we were doing for ourselves, and we just took it as it come. What hurt us in that season more than anything was that they counted the games that the
Crazy.
scout players played, and then we just started out with a big 0-4 and couldn't climb over that.
Wow, wow. So I want to ask you about the Super Bowl, that experience. But before I do, uh, were there players that really gave you a tough time on the opposing teams? Were there two or three guys that you just said, man, they really create havoc for me every time I get on the field with them?
The Washington Redskins were a team that, back then we had a great rivalry, part of the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, all just tremendous, teams back then. It was really, I think we had a lot of respect for each other. On any given day, the Hogs, uh, call them that under Joe Gibbs, would kind of get under our skin a little bit. They were strong, physical. They did things as a team, as a unit, and at times they were very powerful. They had a running back, John Riggins, who was a guy who was very difficult to tackle. He was a beefy 6'3", 245-pounder, but had a powerful body lean and powerful running style. It was different than what you see today. But I think that Redskin offense, I still remember them, but we had one special season against them in 1986, and we beat them not once, not twice, but in the NFC Championship game, we wound up beating them the third time that
Wow.
season, and we took a dominant position over that football team, and to me, that's very memorable, and hopefully a decent answer to your question.
Absolutely. So tell me about your first experience. People wonder. I was watching those guys get out on the field, and we all know that KC was had been there before, and we also know that that quarterback for San Francisco, he's famous, man, for being the last man chosen. That's amazing. I mean, that's got to be one of the amazing stories of the decade. What is it like leading up to the Super Bowl and actually walking up those stairs and or out and play and getting ready to play? I know probably a lot of the jitters are gone by the time you get going, but what is it like playing in that first Super Bowl?
Well, it was a dream come true. I mentioned the NFC Championship game, and that was the game that put us into that first Super Bowl 21 in Pasadena. So having come off that big high, we had that extra week of preparation. We had 2 weeks before the game, which was against the Denver Broncos back then, and we were the underdogs. The Broncos were the elite team coming in there with their passing offense and John Elway at quarterback. We were an underdog, so we kind of felt like we had a little bit of a chip on our shoulder, and nonetheless, we wanted to go out there and take care of business. We want to be more physical, more dominant. We want to play NFC East football, and that's exactly what we did. We took care of business out there. And when you talk about learning about starting to play in that game, we were going to be coming out, and they were going to introduce to the world our New York Giants defense. And so I'm in the locker room thinking before the game, we're all kind of sitting there. Nobody's talking in the locker room. It's all kind of a personal reflection about our careers, how we got here, who helped us along the way, trying, prayers and thank yous and kind of all those things. It was really a solemn, quiet time just before we came down that tunnel in Pasadena to be introduced in the Rose Bowl. And I remember walking down that tunnel very vividly, and it was an eye-opening experience for me to be able to be a part of that game, be a part of this experience, and really kind of a culmination personally of a lot of things that had happened to me in my family life, in my sports career, and now in my professional life. Coming together and all meeting at this one moment, and then when Pat Summerall introduced our defense, and they got to me, and I got a chance. I kind of got a little emotional there. I kind of felt the emotion bubble up the top, and when he says number 55, linebacker Gary Reasons, and I run out on the field and I raised a little hand and I'm like, wow, we're going to get this going. That was a pretty awe-inspiring moment. Just think of that, Bruce. You're being introduced not only to the fans in the stands, but also all the football fans across the country. Over 100 million people are there, and they're hearing your name being called. And I think back of where I came from and what all happened before me. It's just an awe-inspiring moment, and it's something that is very positive for me, and hopefully it can be an inspiration to others to kind of get over the things that you're trying to get over in your life, the things that you have trouble with. Try to just kind of relay on some of that positivity, that relentless pursuit that I talked about a little while ago. If you can kind of think about all those positive things, you can overcome them. And I had some obstacles that I overcame across along the way, but yet I got to the big game not once but twice. Now let me fast forward to the second Super Bowl, Super Bowl 25, and they didn't introduce the defense. Then they introduced our offensive players, which was good. Parcells kind of shifted it up. So I'm on the sideline on Super Bowl 25 just before the game's about to start. And what do we do during to start the game? What do we sing? There's a song we sing, right, Bruce? Tell me what it is.
New York, New York.
No, it's the national anthem. And
Right. Okay.
and so literally I'm standing on the sideline at about the 45-yard line, okay? And I'm 15 feet from Whitney Houston, okay?
Wow. Oh,
Next to me is Tom Rader, is a former Giants player. He wasn't dressed out. I gave him my video camera and I asked Tom to do some video camera shots of us warming up and taking shots for the game. Well, he's next to me, and I told him, I said, Tom, shoot this. So
wow.
he gets footage of Whitney Houston, and I'm literally right here to the corner of my office
Oh,
seeing from her, and she sang that rendition in front of me.
wow.
That was the most awe-inspiring and galvanizing rendition of the national anthem that I had ever heard. Our
Ever,
country
ever. The best
heard,
ever.
and it still is that. And oh my God, I'm right here. She's right there. And I now have this. I do have a personal video collection of that, and that I have, and I see it from time to time when I look through some of my videos. But that's that moment before the game was bigger than the game.
Wow.
Remember that.
Unbelievable.
That moment before the game was bigger than the game. The national anthem by Whitney Houston that galvanized our country, because we were in the Gulf War at that time and we needed to have that solidifying moment. And Whitney Houston, she pulled it all together.
Oof. Imagine being able to train your mind with the same precision you train your body. The Awaken Mind headset offers personalized audio programs that can help enhance your concentration, reduce stress, and optimize recovery times. It's like having a personal mental coach available anytime you need to dial in your focus or unwind after an intense session. I believe that this tool can be a valuable addition to your training arsenal, giving you the mental sharpness and relaxation needed for those critical moments when games are won or lost. If you're interested in learning more about how this headset can be integrated into your routine for peak performance, contact me at the number below. I'd like to share more about how this technology can support your journey to the top. Wishing you continued success and looking forward to the possibility of contributing to your legacy as a professional athlete. Wow. I have just one more question for you. And you can't beat that. I mean, I should probably quit right here, Gary, but I'm going to go for this because it was such an outstanding time for you. And it had to do with, getting as far as you did. You, in December 1989, you made a tackle heard around the entire metropolitan area against a guy named Bobby Humphrey of those Denver Broncos, and in the deep snow. And tell me about that. I have a little bit of a note here how it went down, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, the situation was we were in Denver and we needed to win this game. Is early December, December 9th, 1989. And we needed to win this game to continue to get our push into the playoffs. I'll give you a little fast forward here. We won the game and got into the playoffs. But to get there, we had to make a goal line stand. And that's what the play that you're referencing. And I know it very well. And Giants fans who were watching the game back in the Northeast, it was a snowy, snowed in weekend that weekend in New York. So everybody was home and everybody was watching that game. And so all the Giant fans that I've ever met, they all remember this one singular play that I made to really help us win that football game. But it really kind of became synonymous with us as a football team. So it was 4th and goal, and I dive over the top, and I make an exceptional tackle on a great running back, Bobby Humphrey, and just knock his ear pad right out of his helmet. It goes flying off, and Jerry Pincus, our photographer, took a still shot of it, and that became the photograph that went on the next year's magazine or what is it? The guide,
Program?
our team yearbook that
Wow.
before the season, and he won the best picture in the NFL for that season, and that play with John Madden and Pat Summerall has been replayed millions and millions of time online, and it is one of the top 10 greatest hits in NFL history on one of those collection tapes. I don't know which one, but it's there, and it's just something that people remember me for. And one other play in the NFC Championship game, I called a fake punt and ran that for 30 yards to set us up to go to Super Bowl 25. That was kind of another play that I've had. So 2 plays in my career: the hit in 1989, and then the fake punt in the NFC Championship game. Most fans of the Giants remember those plays vividly for me being a real catalyst to help us win.
Wow. Unbelievable. Last thing, I promise. Who are the guys that you're still in touch with? Who are the guys that you became friends with? And I know when I spoke to Leonard, and it's like it's a bond stronger than family. Tell me some of the guys that you've stayed in contact with.
Well, obviously Leonard is a great example. He's still back in the Northeast at times. He lives in Florida. He's got different interests that he does, so he's back there. There's guys that stay in the Northeast that are up there. I relocated back to the South, back to Texas, but I stayed in touch with Raul Alegre, one of our kicker. Sean Landetta, obviously a very great and unique character there, and a punter for our football team. There are guys, all the 86 and 90 teams. We've been together now for multiple reunions for different functions, to support our 10-year anniversary, 20-year anniversaries for our team. So we've kind of gotten together. And what's funny, Bruce, is when we get together, it's like we're in the locker room again. There's no story, nothing's changed. All the stories just get a little bit bigger, a little bit juicier, and it's like old family get together, and all you get to tell all these lies again. It's just amazing to be a part of that. And the coaches that we had were just tremendous, and we love them all. And it's a great time when we do get together for those things. This past year, I went to one Giants game, and sitting up in the press box and seeing OJ Otis Anderson and messing with him a little bit. And Lee Rousson from this area, he went up there and to watch the game as well. And it's cool. Rodney Hampton, those guys are all just guys that you learn to love and be a part of, and of a team, and almost family. So cherished times, and they're always going to be special.
I do this show because I want kids to get off the computer, and I want them collecting. I want them to get interested in collecting. I've given away thousands and thousands of cards to kids at the school that I teach. And so I know you have a couple of pieces of some memorabilia.
Yeah, I got a few here, but this is something that what I did was I kind of put together one card. I don't know if these are all the cards, but these are a bunch of the trading cards that were put together from the different licensed companies through the NFLPA and the NFL. back in the days when I played. And so I get letters in the mail, Bruce, every single week, probably a half a dozen or more. And I sign pretty much every one of them. And the trick here, guys, is when you send out these cards, be sure that you send in a personal note, referencing yourselves. Tell me a little bit something about yourself. Tell me how you're a Giants fan. Well, I don't care, or a football fan. But you do need to include a self-addressed stamped envelope to return it. I'll sign most of them, but it's all good. And these are the ones that are near and dear to my heart. But when you talk about memorabilia, you talk about these guys right up here. This is a Danbury Mint collection of our 4 linebackers: Carl Banks, Lawrence Taylor, Gary Reasons, Harry Carson, all of us right there, the top 4 linebackers in Giants history right there, all in one place. That's pretty cool. These 2 pictures on the side are my teams, and you can paint this camera up there. A couple of different shots
Woo!
there. The one over this is the NFC championship game where I called a fake punt, and that's kind of a depiction. It's an artist rendering of that picture. This one over here is me tackling Bobby Hebert, who was my quarterback at Northwestern
Oh,
State. I
wow.
sacked him in New Orleans on that play, which was really pretty fun. And the biggest takeaway of all, Bruce, is when you win Super Bowls, guess what you get?
Woo!
You win a Super Bowl trophy. You know, so this is the replica of our Super Bowl 25 trophy, and my kids got that for me, and it's really special there. So it's all engraved just like it is the original one that is in the Giants complex in New Jersey. But very proud to have that replica. I show it off as much as I can, and
I don't blame
it's a
you.
lot of fun.
I don't blame. What did Bobby say to you after you knocked the heck out of him on that play?
He wasn't speaking right then because I don't think that he was able to speak. It just shut him down, and unfortunately, he didn't have a great lasting career beyond that. He's a good football player, but I think he was out of the game within the next couple of years. So I think that's the case with him.
All right. Well, Gary, I couldn't have gotten more inside information of what it takes to be a professional ball player. And I know that you're one of you said yourself, smart intellectuals that was in the game. I mean, to be representing the team. And I know you do a lot of that. You had a very successful uh, a professional career outside of sports. And if people want to get in touch with you, would it be okay if I sent you some of these cards to sign and that I can show to the kids?
Yes, send them to me, Bruce. I'll take care of them and send them. You then utilize them the best way you can. Let me tell you something that's unique for me. I've been in the broadcast booth for 30 years calling college football. It's been a pleasure for me to be a part of the game for over 50 years continually, and I'm now beginning a keynote speaker career. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there, and that if you are looking at this and you're contemplating having someone come in to speak to your team, your organization, your company, your event, consider me as a keynote speaker. I'll tell you quite a few stories. I'll layer in some personality. I will definitely connect with your audience and give them some takeaways that'll be life changing and meaningful. And that is something that I really am passionate about. So. Keynote speaking, you can reach me through LinkedIn and get me there. Gary Reasons, you'll find me, and just send me a note and we'll talk.
I've been a professional speaker since 1986, and I can tell a good speaker when I see one. And I'm looking at one right now. So it would be an honor for anyone to be able to get you to come and speak. So I'll definitely do whatever I can. And hopefully we could use some footage here to put together something for you to show around if that pleases you. Gary Reasons, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. God bless, and just it's been a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate the time, and thanks to all the Giants fans out there who supported us through all the years. And they've got a couple more championships along the way. It hasn't been all that bad, but always brighter days ahead. And go Big Blue.
All right. Bye bye, everybody. Thanks again.